All right, good afternoon and welcome once again to the Remote Workforce Summit organized by Kalish Times. The next session that's coming up is going to tackle a question that has often crossed all our minds. Are organizations ready for a long-term remote work strategy? For this very curious question, we would like to call Mr. Chen Fong, the HR and General Affairs Director, Samsung Malaysia. Mr. Fong is responsible for end-to-end people operations and administrative functions. He is a member of the country executive team providing strategic and tactical input to drive organizational goals and business objectives. So Mr. Fong, here is waiting to hear from you on are the organizations ready for a long-term remote work strategy? Thank you and take it over.
Thank you. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. I believe I'm one of the furthest away geographically from most of the other speakers who are mainly based in the UAE. I'm based in Malaysia, and obviously, as you can see, I'm not in the office. I'm back at home, working remotely. So just a quick introduction, as what Mitsu has mentioned earlier, I am the HR director for Samsung Malaysia, and Samsung is a conglomerate Korean. So I hope most of you would know or recognize who Samsung is, and we are a technology company. So I think with this new unprecedented situation that we are facing now due to the pandemic, some organizations are more ready than others. 100% of our staff, for example, are all mobile enabled. Now, coming from a technology or mobile technology company like a Samsung, obviously we are more, I think we are more ready than some of the more traditional organizations that may not be fully online in terms of accessibility and in terms of the infrastructure. But then again, we should be asking this. Everybody's talking about the new normal. But is this the new normal, or is it just a renewed normal? What I mean by this is, this working remotely is nothing new. It is nothing new because a lot of tech companies, a lot of tech entities have already done this 15 years, 10 years, 15 years ago. It's just that now everyone is jumping onto the bandwagon because we don't have a choice. So I think you probably have heard over the last day or so, or day and a half or so, about it's the new normal. We have to do this. Everyone have to be ready, have the new capabilities so that we are able to work remotely, etc., etc. But then again, I think we need to take a step back and see how we can do this well, how can we do this in phases, and how can we do this more effectively. So let me jump very quickly. as I mentioned earlier, the pandemic, it's kind of accelerated our move and our evolution from proximity working, working day to day, face to face in an office, to an absolute, cut off from everyone remotely. I think the key now is a balance, is coming to a point where we can balance between remote and working in closer proximity, in organic proximity, in more face-to-face interaction. But how does this renewed normal will look like? So let me go through some base. I know everywhere in the world is, we are in some sort of a lockdown in one way or another, and some are coming out of it faster than others. Yeah, for example, China, they went into the lockdown way earlier, and some other countries as well, Italy and so on. Malaysia was not spared, so we were closed down from 18th of March onwards, and we are slowly opening up. As you can see, the slide, the chart on the left, you will see some of the economies are opening up faster, some are not. But all these economies, which is almost the entire, almost all countries globally, are affected. And therefore, it affects how we work and how we look at work and how we manage the new way of working. And this is immediate, sudden, because we don't even have time to do it. The moment the country or any government decides to shut down the economy, you have very little time. And companies and organizations have very little time to prepare. If you have not prepared for it, you will have very little time. And if your infrastructure is not ready, immediately you feel that the organization itself is shut down. The people and staff in the organization are unable to interact and connect. It takes some time. Some faster than others. It can be within a couple of days to within a month because they are not ready. So as we see this remote work policy, as we begin to unravel what needs to be done so that people can stay effective. Most of the organizations will take, okay, so we will do 100% and we will have meetings. So everyone goes into Zoom meetings, into WebEx meetings, using technology, etc., etc. There are many considerations here. I wouldn't want to go into the tech part because I presume all of you have already done and heard from the AI perspective, the technology perspective, the platform perspective. But I think the key now is, what about the organic perspective, the people perspective, the emotive perspective? Working remotely is great if you have everything in balance. But if you're not, then the problem is it can happen now. The issues and pitfalls may happen now, or definitely it will occur in the future. So when I say not every organization may be fully ready, and this can be from two perspectives. Infrastructure is very simple. If you're not connected, not mobile enabled, none of your systems are ready to be remotely accessible. Immediately, remote working would be a challenge. But more pertinently and more acutely is from a cultural standpoint. Because you can see, there are three main areas here. Employee engagement and any engagement of any kind, it's already extremely challenging to do it face-to-face. But now you don't even have that opportunity. So everything is virtual. Means you have to be disciplined, you have to engage, you have to build a culture whilst you have no one to interact with, albeit just online. And a very interesting piece is this. I think for leadership, one of the, I wouldn't say a vogue word or a vogue challenge that we all face as leaders is breaking silos, right? We always say about, there are many silos in organizations. We want to break those silos. Lo and behold, now every employee in their homes is one single silo. So we have thousands and thousands of silos. Imagine having to build a coherent culture, engaging them in a consistent manner. Will be a massive challenge because you have multiple silos, thousands of them now, because everyone is different, and they have their own challenges. They are in a separate location, and everything is just based on communication through a virtual platform. So that's one of it. From another cultural perspective is business continuity planning. Now we always look at, okay, how to ensure that we run the business. How do we continue to run business? As I mentioned, I'm from HR, right? So from a HR perspective, never before HR has been in the forefront of the business because we are the business at the moment. Marketing couldn't begin because it's a lockdown. Our supply chain absolutely lay idling because none of our stocks can go out from the warehouse because the entire supply chain is shut down as well. Businesses and channels are not open. Nobody's out there buying anything. So how do you ensure that we are able to sustain the business? And more importantly, how do we come out from it, knowing the right, have the right communication, and we have the right assessment risk in place. Our security of our data and networks are secured and managed well. So the entire business becomes virtual. Then not all of our businesses and not all our people are ready to run businesses virtually because we are not used to it and we are not ready. Even for a technology company like Samsung, yeah. And the third challenge is leaders. A lot of leaders are used to having people. When they want to come up with some solutions, they just get people around and brainstorm and get things done. A lot of our managers now are reduced to being meters. When I say meters, managers become meters because they don't do anything but meeting. And meetings are not necessarily the most effective when they are, the agenda is not ready. They're just meeting people for the sake of meeting. And solution building is no longer as simple as just, before that, you just go around to the next table and solve a problem. Now you just wait for the next meeting to happen. The next meeting may happen in 5 hours or tomorrow, and you wait for those meetings to happen before you solve the problem. So culturally, and also organizationally, the culture can be both organizational culture as well as the people culture within the country. Is a challenge in this day and in this situation. Yeah. So while we jump onto the bandwagon, obviously we have no choice because it is you don't have a choice. We have to do it. Business has to go on. Business is not usual, but business needs to run. It's not usual. It's unorthodox, but it has to run. But probably three main pitfalls that I'm looking at. Number one is loss of organic interaction. So a lot of informal conversations aren't happening. Number two is loss of passive input from what I call water cooler chatter. A lot of corridor conversations. There are a lot of noises there, but also lots and lots of intangible, rich input that you can get from chatters. And the most acute problem is asymmetry or asynchrony of information. What I mean by this is communication is already difficult. Information flow from one person to another person is already difficult. Imagine now you don't have additional input just from a con call or just from a video con. There is no body language that you can look at. There is no group dynamics that you can rely on. So a lot of information are not fully contextualized, are not fully communicated, causing a lot of decision making to be slow or decision making to be inaccurate. So a lot of rework and redone. A lot of decisions are being redone, reviewed, and reenacted because information and expectations are not aligned. Yeah. So what is an effective blend of remote and proximity way? So remote work 100% or daily commute, which is everyone goes into the office. Obviously, it's a balance. Yeah, it's a balance where, you know, it's a choice. There are certain jobs that can be remote. There are certain jobs that should not, and there are certain functions that even if you have a choice for remote working, we should bring people back. For example, to ensure that our culture is coherent, we can still build a culture that is consistent across the organization, and more importantly is we are able to blend this together so that we are winning both sides. Yeah, the best of remote working, reduction of commute, improvement in productivity, yet the organic interaction is not lost. So this blend will be different for all different organizations, obviously. For us, it's right about 50-50 or 60-40. We are not going towards like what Twitter is saying, 100% working from home and remote working. Neither are we the traditional 100% working in the office. Ours will be tending towards 60% remote and 40% daily commute or in the office or some interaction of some sort. Yeah. So this is where it is extremely important that we are able to blend this, and you have to decide what is right for you. Don't just jump onto the bandwagon because it's required and it's forced onto us. We have a choice. Yeah, as the economy begins to open up, as the economy begins to relax and be a bit more adaptive in terms of what is allowed and what is not, organizations need to make a call about what would work for them. Remote working is not as sexy as a lot of people think it is. Just because it's remote and, you know, you get a lot of work-life balance. I will close by saying, you know, let me share that I work a lot harder, probably 30 to 40% more in terms of working hours when I'm working remotely, because you feel that there's certain obligation that you need to put in more hours. That's not true, because the way we are measured, the way we are in terms of productivity, in terms of deliverables, are exactly the same, whether you work remotely or you work organically in the office or wherever that you're working. So don't fall into a trap that remote working is the only way to do, even in the new normal, because I personally don't believe that this is a new normal. This is just a renewed normal. We already have this before in different spurts, in different intensity, and in different amounts, but we already have this previously. Now that it is forced onto us, it brings a focus on what do we need to do to ensure that we can effectively manage this well. So it's about 4:50. I'm given 20 minutes anyway, so I think I'm just about time to just complete my deck.
Right. Yeah. Right. We have some very, very interesting questions, Mr. Fong.
Yeah.
We're running short of time, so we'll take only one question.
Sure.
Because you can answer to them in the same question and answer box.
Sure.
Can you see the question and answers? Because we have around 4 questions.
Where is
Which
in the chat?
Yes. Okay. I'll read them out to you.
Sure.
To work on time from home, as work from home is something challenging, as said, how to build a new culture? Do you have any policies on that?
Well, building a new culture is always very difficult, right? I don't think we can just build a new culture just from thin air, because culture is culture. And neither do I believe that you can put a policy in and just, you can do this and you can't do that. More importantly is, firstly, is you have to enable your people to ensure that they are accessible, means they must have the right tools. Number 2, trust, empowerment. Never before empowerment need to be higher than now, because you can't check on them, you can't see them. So it has to be measured. Whatever that you need to measure is not just based on tasks or activity. Has to be deliverables, have to be output. And thirdly, you need to be fair to them. Treat them as if they are in the office. If you are used to being in the office, just because they're at home, don't treat them as if they are 24/7, and calling them at whatever unearthly time.
Right.
Maintain the same way that you have been doing. It's just that just thought of them, they are not working in the office, they're just somewhere else.
Right.
It could be anywhere
Right.
else. So
Right.
if we have that fundamentally, I think we're fine.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. That was a very, very nice session. And as I said, you can answer the other questions. I'll send you the link if you can't find it. So you
Okay.
can answer them. It was a great session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mitsu.
I request all the other attendees to join the next session by Mr. Vijay Jaiswal, the Chief Technology Officer of Software AG. You can just go to the tab, which is right-hand corner of your screen, and you will be able to join the next session. Thank you very much, Mr. Fong. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.